All right, we're going to talk about our cloud historian. Insight started off as just a historian, right? When we first introduced it, we took a cloud-based virtual machine, installed our on-premise historian on it, put it in the cloud, and said we have a cloud historian, which really wasn't true. We just had an on-premise historian running on a virtual machine in the cloud. So next year, we actually rebuilt the whole historian to be a truly cloud-based app. It's a completely elastic application. That's why you can go to the website and you can just click a button and say, I want one, and instantly you have a historian, right? And it's ready to use. You can throw data into it. You can use it for the next 45 days, free of charge. Yeah, as we like to say, it's kind of like the first bag of cocaine is free, right? So you get hooked on the historian, and rightly so, right? Historians are awesome, right? They really do great. Who here has a historian? Great, everybody. So the historian so Insight is in the cloud is now an umbrella term for everything sort of cloud-based. And so Insight includes performance capabilities for understanding our equipment performance, includes other things that are going to be in there. And so your whole Insight environment is encompassing more than just the historian. We used to say we had Insight on the on-premise historian. We've kind of renamed that and called that Historian Client Web for the on-premise historian. And there's Historian Client Desktop, which is the traditional set of tools that you're probably used to seeing of trend and query and workbook that you can get at the historian data with. Also, all your orchestra graphics are clients to the historian as well. I can take any orchestra graphic and I can say, you know what, I would rather have this graphic animated by data from the historian. And it'll do it. It's called a historian custom property. And you can get the average over the last 24 hours, min, max, standard deviations, any time frame, anything you want. Little trend pens on your animations. Those are all driven right from the historian. You don't need a client control to see historical data in your process graphics. So in the cloud historian, it's truly now a managed Azure application. It lives up in Microsoft Azure. We've got a lot of them in there, right? Over 8,000 instances of this historian for different clients. It grows every day. We've been doing it for a long time. And you basically can send the data from anywhere, any place you got it. It doesn't have to come from a Wonderware product, but it's super easy if it is, because the Wonderware products natively know how to send all their data into the historian. You can use the Edge product to do it. You can use InTouch to do it. You can use System Platforms Historian to do it. Use your local on-premise. Use your enterprise historian. But you could also just drag a CSV file into a browser, and that will save data too, right? So it's completely flexible. Lets you do it in any way, shape, or form that floats your boat. Mix and match as much as you want. Like if you have like readings taken in a lab, you can just take that little CSV from an Excel spreadsheet and just drag it to your browser, and poof, the data's in the cloud. Really, you can get all kinds of ability to get that. There's an app for your phone. It works. It's all browser-based. You can use Excel to get at the cloud historian. Trend will work with the cloud historian. You can tell your trending desktop trend to actually just say, hey, go to the cloud and get the data and trend it. There's a RESTful API. So cloud-based applications, SQL is not a cloud protocol. It's just not allowed up in the cloud. So use a newer retrieval protocol called OData. And it's a RESTful API that allows you to get data out of the historian and put data into the historian. So it's fully programmable. You can create tags, delete tags, send data into them via all kinds of mechanisms. You can just use a little HTTP get and put data into the cloud historian. Get data from everything, little JSON pairs. JSON is just a name value pair. Just throw the data into the historian. You don't even have to create a tag, right? You just say, here's a bunch of things. The historian will just say, the data kind of looks like an integer. Okay, we'll declare it an integer, right? And then you can, you could edit it later on, but it just kind of doesn't even require you to set anything up. It's very secure. We spent a lot of time on this. We've been doing this for a long time. We can go head to head with anybody's security requirements and win. There have never been the case where anybody said, oh, sorry, your historian is not secure enough. When we send the data up into the historian, so we can get it from all these different data sources natively, send it into our Insight up here. But typically what happens is that your control world and the internet are not right next to each other. Very rarely, only in the most simplistic organizational sites will I ever see the control network and then a little firewall, and at the other side of that firewall is the wild and woolly internet. Typically, what you're going to see is something similar like this. So I got a firewall here, I have a DMZ, a couple computers in the DMZ, and then I have another firewall. If you're NERC CIP compliant, those should be two different manufacturers' firewalls, because they say don't even put the same brand of firewall on either side of the DMZ. And then I get into the business network, and then I could even have another firewall on top of the business network, and maybe a proxy server on top of the business network. All these, your IT guys are going to put all this maze of intrusion protection infrastructure between you and the internet. And so to get to the cloud, it's a secure socket layer, and it's port 443 to get up to the cloud. But no IT network security guy is going to say, oh, well, we'll just open up 443 here and 443 here and 443 in that firewall. They will never do that. So we created this little thing called Insight DMZ Secure Link, and it simply says, I'm going to go out port 32745, and I'm going to go into the DMZ, and then I'm going to use port 604, and I'm going to go out that thing, and I'm going to go here. And eventually, I'm going to get to something that allows me to use 443 to get into the internet. And so the DMZ secure links can be daisy chained together to weave through all the network infrastructure that your IT guys can throw on top of you and easily get out. And they will only allow traffic to Historian Online, to the Insight solution. They will not allow traffic to anything else. If someone down here opens up a browser and tries to hit Google, gets rejected. If someone down here opens up a browser and tries to go to Apple, gets rejected. The only thing it can do is go into the Historian Online. And then once it's up here, as we look at data and we started to share our information, I get all the time, I get requests, well, God, I really want to see data on my phone, right? I want to be able to, sit in a meeting and check on things. I want to be able to check at home. I want to be able to do all these things. And I say, well, the data's here. The phone is not on the control network. The phone isn't even on your business network. The phone's up here. This is where the phone lives. The phone lives in the cloud. So do I want to take this thing that I really have two options. I can take my phone and teach it how to weave through all the protective infrastructure that I so carefully put in place to keep people out of my system, and then leave it in a bar, right? Or let my kids play with it. Or all the things that happens with mobile devices, right? Lose it, whatever. Or I can send all the data out incredibly securely and reliably and defensively, and then let the phone get at the data where the phone lives, in the cloud. Well, I think this latter is the better solution. That's what we think too. And when we send this data, the first thing is the transmission of here is all certificate based. So when you register your historian or your thing to go send the data, you get a certificate. The device no longer knows about a username or password. He simply uses a certificate. A certificate is an irreproducible, big, long string of characters that is bound to a specific computer. You can't replace that computer with another computer and use the same certificate. It's irreproducible. You can't spoof it, you can't fake it, you can't impersonate it, you can't do anything with it. So the data certificate originated down here, then it's TLS 1.2 encrypted, so the packet's encrypted. And then if you could break the certificate, and you could, which you can't do, if you could decode the packet, which you can't do, the alien race has not come down here yet. This says we know how to break your TLS 1.2 encryption. And even if you could do all those things, we then further go and we obfuscate the data. So all the numbers get reduced to a value between 0 and 1, and they're attached to a GUID. And all the GUID knows is here's a GUID and here's a value. There's no way to know what the value is for. And the metadata that describes that value is attached to another GUID. They're stored separately up here in the cloud in two different locations. You got to break into both locations to get it, and it's virtually as impossible to get into. So from a fear factor, or you got a religious discussion about using the cloud, we've really kind of taken care of it, right? So we'll gladly have that discussion with your IT guys and your security people and everything else, but we've really put a lot of effort into making this a very secure and reliable mechanism to get data into the cloud. And now it's up here, we can get into our our phone, we got an app for the phone. You can go to the App Store and download the Insight app. You can go to the Android store and download the Insight app. And all your data is now on your phone. Your phone can do a lot of cool things. It can, we got a client for the browser. You can see all this information, see trending, see charts, see graphs, build dashboards, do all kinds of things. All the authoring is done right from the browser. There's no development license you have to get or no development tools you have to load on your computer. Do all right here, right from the browser. The app on the phone, it's a little native smartphone app. You can put alerts on your phone. You can say if the, line speed ever drops below a certain point, or the machine is idle for X number of time, or whatever's going on, you can have your phone badge itself, and it'll just like, you got an email, right? The phone will say, hey, something's going on. You can have it send you emails if you want. We can do multivariate alerts. We can have those alerts send emails out. We can have those alerts go into, say, Amazon Lambda Web Services and create a logic app in Amazon or Azure, pass that information into there, have that then notify your Maximo system or whatever's going on to cause some action to occur. So there's an incredible amount of power once you get up here into the cloud. You can try that system free, as I said. Just hit the website. You can put graphics on your solution, and you can animate those graphics with data coming from the Insight Historian. Get out of your way. And so the graphics right now are single variable little tiles that we can put on. In the 2020 release, these will be full-blown orchestra graphics. We'll be able to take your complete process screens, drop them into Insight, animate them with the story going into data, and have completely read-only distribution of what the operators are seeing, every man, woman, and child that you wish to share it with. The cloud does a complete status board. Again, you don't have to construct any of these guys. All you do is you simply search for the tags you want, and the searching mechanism is very kind of Google-ish in a sense, right? You just start telling it what you know, and it says, well, I found stuff that looks like this. It's like as you go into Google and you start typing in stuff, it says, hey, is this what you want or is this what you want, right? And the historian now does the same thing. I could give it unit of measures, I can give it partial tag names, I can give it names in the description, I can give it names and descriptions and unit of measures, I can do whatever I want, and it starts to filter stuff down, and I can add all those tags in. And it gives me information, it shows me the tags, and I say, just throw them all. And the first thing I get when I do that is the status board. The status board will tell me the live value, the current value of the tag, where the trending is headed for that particular value, and a real-time trend, historical trend of that information. And you can pick these predetermined time ranges, or you can customize that and see them. I can then change the graph that I want by using this little graph button. I can change it to a trend, I can change it to a grid, I can change it to statistical data. And so if you ever looked at analog summary by the historian, right, that takes any tag, any high fidelity tag, and converts it to statistical data, a statistical record. Insight does that also, and if you've ever seen the slice by feature, the slice by feature was just added into Insight in the last couple weeks. So now I can say, take all these tags that I have, slice them by product code. And it'll summarize, every time you change product code, it'll summarize all the tags based on product code. It's really cool stuff. Really turns your data into information without you having to pre-build all these summaries and change them and reset them and do all these other things. When all this stuff happens, you just log the product code changes, and it takes care of the rest. It's called Slice By. We also do trending, and trending here will show the alarming. If you have alarms that get generated on any of these process tags, it'll superimpose those alarms on the trends. It'll show you when that alarm was acknowledged, show you when it returned to normal, all part of your trending experience here in a browser. You can also drag this little comment icon here, drag it to any trend point, and put a comment and use it for operator communication, just what were you doing at that time, explanation of why the trend looks weird, logging, whatever you want. You can put that, it becomes a permanent record on the tag in the historian. Report grid is also the other thing I said, and you can also do this with events. In other words, base this grid date time ranges on not time, but actually the change of another tag. Cell Office 365 is plugged right into here, so You got a little button on the bottom. You can say, take this and download it, and it'll put it right into Office 365 if you have a 365 subscription, or just download it into your desktop Excel if you use desktop Excel. Little plug-in to do that. And to use it is really quite simple. So this is the landing page of online.wonderware.com. Anybody can go to it, land on it. You just log into online.wonderware.com. You get this landing page, and there's a couple choices here. You can try it free, which is basically our demo little data set, and we just keep refreshing it all the time, and it's just a demo data set for you. Or you can ask to get one, and you get it for 45 days. Or log into the one you've already bought. But there's a little demo site. It's got OEE, and there's mapping capability in the historian. So if you put geolocation on your tags, it'll lay them all out on a map if you want. You've got multiple sites, it'll do all that. Here's OEE, the equipment utilization. So you have a tag here. You can do this manually or automatically based on the tags coming in. It'll categorize uptime, downtime, reasons for doing things, build this whole sequence of time, show all the status of your pieces of equipment. You can have start the equipment, give it production rates, let it know how fast, how effectively it's making packaging or producing product or flow rate through a pipe or whatever it is you got. It'll calculate OEE for this thing. It will then allow you to look at these things. And even after the fact, even though you may have an integer tag, for instance, categorizing all these different statuses of the equipment, you can then edit. In this case, you can edit this one. You can go in and change the reason. You know, you could readjust the categorization if you so chose. All these categorizations you can just simply load into Insight with it just gives you a little Excel spreadsheet. You fill out the Excel spreadsheet, save it, it goes back up into Insight, and the categorizations are all created. So all the authoring is done right there from the browser. Or you can go into here and you could merge two that are adjacent to each other. You could split them. You can do other things, further to refine and edit this data after it gets automatically generated, or it never got automatically generated. You just manually create it. So if you don't have any instrumentation, you don't have anything, you can still use Insight. It can do all this stuff for you. It'll give you downtime reasons and over the time horizon. So as it expands, obviously, the time horizon, it gets more reasons for what's happening and that sort of thing. And just do our top 5. But this whole screen, nobody had to construct, right? It just automatically built for everything you declare as a piece of equipment for OEE. And here's the attainment of production. So build this little screen so you can keep this up, put it up on maybe a big add-on thing in your plant. Say, here's how we're doing, making our targets.